Welcome to the introduction of routers in Packet Tracer. So we'll be dealing with, this is tutorial number 2. We'll be dealing here with the router. We'll choose one router and we'll change the name of that router to lab. Set the privileged password for the privileged mode. Set the current configuration of router, set the password for the console mode, and show the startup configuration of router and save the current configuration of router. For you to be able to work comfortably with the routers, you need to know first the basics. You need to know first what is privileged mode, what is console mode, what is startup configuration. So before we begin on with creating the topologies with the routers, I'll give you a brief introduction of the routers. I'll click on the routers. I'll choose the first one, let us say that is a 1841 series. I'll choose this router. I'll click on this router and I'll click on CLI. Before clicking on CLI, I'll just want to focus your attention to this IO button here. This IO button here indicates the power supply button of a router, you can say, for the booting button of a router from where it can be switched on and switched off. As you know, this is a simulation software, so sometimes when you need to actually know if you turn off the router and you turn it on again, then what happens? Then we can manually switch it off from here. That's one good thing about Packet Tracer. It gives you that freedom, even though it is a simulation software. You can turn off and turn on again the router. And this is a CLI mode which we'll be working on. As you can see, this is Cisco 1841 series router. The amount of memory it has, 2 fast Ethernet interface ports are there in this router, and this is the amount of NVRAM it has. NVRAM is basically, you can say, the non-volatile RAM. So if I say non-volatile RAM, that means something whose contents are not deleted, which are stored in it permanently. And then some technical information about the copyright of the product. Continue with the configuration dialog? No. We'll do it manually. I'll type N and enter. Press return to get started. Press enter. So you get this symbol, router, greater than sign. This means we have to enable this router to work on it. You can write EN also as a shortcut. Press enter. The previous mode is called as the user mode, and when you get this sign hash, this is called as the privileged mode of the router. From the user mode, until and unless you enter the privileged mode, from the privileged mode you'll be able to move on further. At user mode you are not able to enter any other command except enable. This is the user mode. At this mode you cannot enter any other command except enable. And this is the privileged mode. Privileged mode can be used for all the show commands. If I say show commands, what it means? You will be using in future many protocols on the routers. Anything you are using on the router, whenever you want to see its configuration, you need to use the show commands. Let us take an example. If I want to see the current configuration of my router, I'll use show run. Show run means show running config and press enter. Host name is router. Press enter. Interface, no IP address set. 2 interfaces it is indicating. Interface fast Ethernet 0, fast Ethernet 01. VLAN, line con 0, line VTY 0. VTY means telnet. So you have seen the running configuration of router. This is the basic configuration which was there. To configure the router, we need to enter into the router for configuration. I'll write here config T. Config T means configure the terminal. After configuring the terminal, the first thing we have in the question is that, I'll show you the question again. I'll just drag it here. Change the name of the router to lab. So let us change the name of this router. To change the name, you need to write host name. We have to change it to lab, host name lab, and enter. See in this command, so in place of the router, we have here written lab. Normally this is beneficial if you want to change the name of the router according to the location it is located. Maybe if it is a LAN, then maybe your room wise you can name the router, or maybe department wise if you want in case, or majority of the times it is according to the city wise. City wise you can keep the names. So this is how you change the host name. The next thing is if we want to set the password for the privileged mode. If you remember, I just told you a few minutes back, privileged mode is something when we are here, router hash. I'll show you again here. Scrolling down. If I want to go back to the privileged mode, how will I go? I'll type exit. I'm back to the privileged mode. So we want, obviously, if a router is there, we want it to be secure. So in the second step, as you can see, set the password for the privileged mode. I will set the password for the privileged mode. I'll click on the router again and I'm on the CLI. As I told you earlier, to configure anything, you have to be in config terminal. To set the password, you'll need to write the command enable password. Let us say we keep the password as ABC and enter. Now if we want to see whether the changes which we have made, they have been implemented or not, we'll have to save those changes. We'll have to restart our router. And if we want to restart our router, we'll have to save our changes. Saving our changes from file save as will not solve our purpose, because file save as is going to save your workspace area and the router, not the settings of the router. I'll show you where and how you will be able to save the settings of the router. We'll go back to the privileged mode and there you will see show startup config. Startup config is something which contents are stored in the NVRAM. So in this case, you have not saved any changes, that is why your startup configuration is right now empty. So what we will do, we'll copy the contents of your running configuration to start. Copy, run, start. Just press enter. No file name, it will be, even then it will be working. And now I will go to physical and I'll switch off this router and again switch on this router. See this. Now it is getting booted up. This self-decompressing the image. It has started. Press enter. User mode enable or EN. Let us use a shortcut. EN. Enter. Password. Remember the password which we have said, that was for the privileged mode. So it is asking us the password. Please do remember the password which you have kept. and I'm here on the privileged mode. But the question here is, I'm still able to enter into the user mode. What if I want a person who is unauthorized, should not be able to enter into this user mode without a password? So how to set a password for this mode? For that, actually, you're connecting to this by the console. As you can see in this line above, configured from console. So that means you'll need to set the password at the console line. To set the password at the console line, you'll again have to go to config T, enter, line console space 0. You can type console completely. I'm using the shortcut line con 0. Enter, login, because you want to set the password at the login time. So login, password 123. Enter. Exit. See, now if I'm exiting, you can see from config line I have come back only to config. But if you directly want to go to the privileged mode, you can use Control Z. Control Z can be used to go directly to the privileged mode. No concern at whichever mode you are currently working on. So we'll copy the contents again from the running to start to verify that the password has been set or not. Once it command has been executed, go to the physical mode, switch off the router and switch it on again. Let it boot again, because only then we'll be able to see whether it asks us the password right at the starting, right at the beginning or not. See this. So even before it enters the user mode, you have to give the password. It prompts you for the password. Now you enter the user mode, enable, enter, and again the password for the privileged mode. Please do remember which password you have kept for the console mode and which password you have kept for the privileged mode. Otherwise you may get confused. You can see now your start up configuration. If you want, show start. Show startup -config. See this. Host name has been stored as lab. Enable password is set as ABC. These are the changes which you have made. These are the things which you have configured. They have been stored. The routers. In the next video, we will see how to connect the PC, server and switch together. This is it. You can save your file and the end. File name router intro. Extension is .pkt.